Good morning, evening, afternoon, whatever time of day it is where you're at. Welcome to Collider Dailies. I'm John Alditz, and I'm joined once again by
Maggie Lovett.
Maggie. How are you doing today?
I am doing great because it's Friday.
Woo! I mean, it's actually Friday. That does not mean that it's the end of our work week, but
No,
you know,
no, I definitely have a very busy weekend ahead of me.
yeah, it's kind of a crazy time. But that's what happens when we do what we do. So today we are going to be talking about a whole slew of things. We're going to talk about the return of Karen Page and Foggy Nelson. We're going to talk about Ben Affleck and Matt Damon teaming up once again. But before all that, we are going to talk about Knives Out 3. Yes, it has been fully confirmed at this point that Daniel Craig is returning for Knives Out 3. It was pretty much a foregone conclusion. Like, we knew that was going to be the case. But we also got a little bit of word that the film is going to start filming shortly here, like probably within the next next few months or so. It'll be later on this year. As far as the release date, I would probably expect sometime next year on that. We knew that the strikes impacted this film significantly. And so it's good to hear that they're jumping back into it. Rian Johnson has, a script that he's working on, and he seems to be super jazzed about it. Maggie, are you excited? How do you feel about this? Are you going to be there?
Excited. My knives are out and ready for this. Yeah, I love the Knives Out franchise. I love Rian Johnson, and Rian Johnson we trust. And I'm very excited for a new whodunit to be on our screens. And yeah, I'm also guessing that it'll be probably 2025. If they follow a similar pattern that they did with Glass Onion, they'll do the festival circuit a little bit and then, quietly debut it on Netflix. But I am still hopeful always that we'll get actual theatrical releases, because seeing the first Knives Out in cinemas was an experience, and I wish that people had gotten to see it. I got to see Glass Onion at a festival, so it was kind of on a screen larger than
it got a super limited theatrical.
Yeah, you gotta love
got like one.
Netflix. But yeah, I'm so hyped. I cannot wait for the cast list.
I was gonna say, do you have any dream Knives Out castings? Anybody that you're like, I would love to see them?
Yeah, I have two. They are cast members from Star Wars that Rian Johnson directed, which I need Adam Driver in an actual genuine comedy again, which is what Knives Out is, and I need Kelly Marie Tran to reunite with Rian Johnson on something. I love both of them so much. I love their roles in The Last Jedi, and I'd like to see them be directed by Rian Johnson again. And we know that Adam has a good relationship with Netflix, so I can dream big.
I'm kind of with you on Adam Driver. I would like to see him do a less serious, more character, like kooky character kind of thing. I think that would definitely be fun. James Pound says the Muppets. James Pound over on Twitter saying the Muppets. I would I want a Muppet murder mystery, and a Muppet murder mystery with Benoit Blanc would be brilliant. Like, have him be the only human in the entire film and just don't draw attention to it.
I love that.
I miss the days of Muppet movies like that.
I know. Yeah.
It's a bummer that we don't really get that anymore.
I know.
But yeah,
do you have a wish list of actors that you would like to see in Knives Out?
I mean, as Adam Driver is pretty high up there. I think that Andrew Garfield, it would be fun to see him play an oddball character. That would be a lot of fun. Yeah, that's about it. There's so many people that it could be.
You know who else should be in it is Rachel Weisz, Daniel Craig's wife.
That would be brilliant. I am going to agree with Geekly Goods over there. I'd love to see Michelle Yeoh. I want to see Michelle Yeoh in all of the things. She is probably one of my favorite actresses of all time. So seeing her pop up in Knives Out would just be brilliant. Really, just have her pop up in anything, and I'm having a good time. She was the best part of Discovery. Easily, hands down. Anyways, moving on to our next topic of the day, which is that Ben Affleck and Matt Damon are going to reunite once again, this time for a film called Animals on Netflix. It's going to be Matt Damon in the lead and Ben Affleck directing. Have they done that before, where Affleck directed Damon? They probably have, and I'm just...
Isn't he in Air?
Yeah, they're both in Air.
Yeah.
But for some reason, I was thinking somebody else directed that. I didn't actually see Air, so I actually kind of spaced on it.
That's fine.
Here's the thing. I grew up in Oregon. I grew up in
You grew up
the
in Oregon? No way. I had never heard this information
I
before.
grew up surrounded. Ben directed Air. Yeah, okay. There
I
you
was
go.
like,
You're right. I grew up surrounded by the cult of Nike and like everything like that because like, you know, obviously they're based out of Beaverton. So I heard all of the stories. I didn't need to go see a movie about it. I
can we
didn't need to
cut
pay
that
attention
clip
to a movie about it.
where John just said I was right? I need that to like play on loop.
Okay, I have admitted that you're right about things several times. This is not like a new
Yeah, but I need it.
thing.
I need it. No.
And-
Fine.
Anyways, talking about Ben Affleck and Matt Damon though, can you like what are some other like buddy pairings in Hollywood that are on that level of just iconic? Because there's quite a few where it's like, you know, two people who are friends who wind up working a lot together. Most of the time, they're often director pairs.
Yeah. I mean,
Robert Redford and Paul Newman.
yeah, that was the one I was thinking of. Leo and Scorsese. I mean, Leo and Kate worked on what, 3 movies together? 2? 2 or
I can think of 2 off the
2.
top of my head.
Margot and Ryan have been in stuff. Emma and Ryan have been in multiple things together.
I would say them before actually Margot and Ryan. Probably.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I think it's just because I'm thinking about their upcoming Ocean's 11 thing.
That's true.
And I have a Barbie car staring at me, so I'm thinking.
There's plenty of them. Either way, that's exciting. It's apparently going to be a thriller. Which
Noah Baumbach and Adam Driver.
Okay, yeah.
I forgot about that. White Noise, Marriage Story.
That's fair. Yeah, so the film is going to be a thriller. It's going to be released on Netflix. Hopefully, this one actually comes out, unlike The Mothership, which we talked about yesterday, that got canned for tax reasons. I'm just going to. I feel like my natural state of assumption when it comes to streaming movies now, whenever they get announced, my brain is just going to go, it's going to get cut for taxes. Don't get excited about it.
Yeah,
and I'm just going to.
Did you see the thing today with Dev Patel's new movie, Monkey Man? They left Netflix because it wasn't going to get a theatrical release, and they found a new distributor. So, I mean,
times are fun, gang.
I think we're going to keep seeing that happen as people no longer feel that confidence in streamers. So,
well, you know, talking about buddies, let's talk about 2 of your favorite buddies who are coming back in Daredevil Born Again. Fun little behind the scenes bit about this. This wasn't going to be a story in today's episode, mostly because I didn't know that it had been like as basically confirmed as it is until Maggie messaged me and was like, do this, swap this story out.
Hey,
we were going to be talking about Terrifier, but
I'm so glad we're not. I hate clowns. But this was such a great follow-up because I literally said 2 days ago, we are mere days away from getting confirmation that Foggy and Karen are back. And then what happened? Mere days later?
So that that is the story. Karen Page and Foggy Nelson, Deborah and Woll, Elden Henson, they are returning for Daredevil Born Again. We've seen some set photos that show them there, so it is happening. Yeah. This is exciting news. This is something that I felt like this series was going to be incomplete without them.
Yeah.
So
at the very beginning, when they were acting like they weren't going to be part of it, and I guess they weren't in the original version of the show, I was just like, how can you do that? Like
at the very least, how do you do Daredevil without Foggy?
Yeah.
Like Karen Page, there have been Daredevil stories without Karen Page, and there have been Daredevil stories without Foggy, but it's Nelson and Murdoch. You need Nelson for Nelson and Murdoch.
Doesn't work with this particular Daredevil to not have him have those people in his life.
They're grounding elements.
And I mean, honestly, that was one of my biggest issues with like She-Hulk was that it just felt like that version of him didn't feel like the version that we knew, but then like it is the version that we knew because now that's part of the canon. And like it was very, and it was just because it didn't feel necessarily in line with like Foggy would be setting you straight, boy. He'd be making fun
he
of
was also quipping more than Netflix Daredevil really ever quipped.
Which, if they were going to turn around and be like, oh yeah, all of his friends are dead, and he's just like cracking jokes and having one night stands, it'd be like, I think you need rehab. I think something.
I will say, the only way that them not being in it, I thought could have worked for me personally, because there was a while there where the word on the street was that the film was going to be set, or the show was going to be set during the blip, and so they could have been like, oh yeah, they got blipped away, in which case I would have expected it to be the most depressed Daredevil has ever been. That would have to be a very, very dark and very bleak series. But no, they're going to be back.
Thinking that he was left behind. Oh God, there's so much they could have done with that.
Oh God, the Catholicism of it all.
Oh yeah, that like really doubles up there. Okay, I would have been okay with that story. Works. I like some good guilt.
But now that they are back, what do you think this is going to do to the story? How do you predict that things are going to go? Okay, but how much do you think they're going to factor into it? Or do you think they're going to be like, they show up in an episode and then we don't see them for a while and then they show up again to be like, I'm here, and then they like leave?
I think that with the writers that they have involved now, that we're involved with at least the Punisher, they know more or less what people like with these characters, and they know the stories that have already existed in a way that fresh writers may have not known necessarily. So I think that we do have at least slightly more potential for them to be more than just a cameo. Maybe that's just my wishful thinking, but I think to make this series work, you fundamentally need the characters that keep Matt. And the way that this particular Matt Murdock has been styled throughout all of his various, appearances in the Netflix universe, he wasn't fully Matt without them. Like, it never fully worked if they weren't in the episodes with him. Because they are, I don't want to say that like they're his North Stars, but in a lot of ways they are. Because they are like the perfect example of what Matt is fighting for. Like the people who matter in his life. So I think you need that emotional connection and that realism to it to keep him grounded.
Now the question is, do we see the other people in his life? Do we see Claire Temple? Do we see Elektra come back?
I mean, it would be weird for him to go and get patched up by somebody who isn't Claire Temple. She's like established as somebody who knows what he's up to. And,
Plus, come on, it can't be hard for Disney to get Rosario Dawson.
Right, she's right there. She's just like one show over when you look at, the Disney homepage.
I will say that of the characters, I feel like if there was any of them that was just going to be a cameo, I think Claire would be the one that would just
basically what she was already.
Yeah. She was like, she had a bit of a bigger part in season one, but that was it.
Then after that, she just kind of like popped up in the spinoffs and, lended medical care when necessary.
She's nurse. She's doctor to the superheroes. That's what her whole role is.
And that's something that we really haven't gotten in the MCU. Those like the normal, regular people outside of like, Spider-Man having his best friends that aren't superheroes.
But the support structure around superheroes.
Yeah. Which a lot of the characters could really benefit it from. I think a lot of these characters wouldn't have flown off the handle if they had their street level buddies to keep them,
Should we get a film about Spider-Man's therapist? Because he probably needs a lot of it.
Especially now that nobody remembers him.
Yeah.
Like, I think he really needs it.
But no, like, going back to it, could you see Elektra coming back?
I would like to. I love Elodie. I think she's great. And I love that her performance as Elektra. So I would like that. I think depending on how many episodes we get and if they plan on doing multiple seasons of Daredevil Born Again, it could pose a challenge because there is a lot of extra stuff that you have to put into that character that, not to knock MCU storytelling, is often lacking. They seem to get really focused on like one thing and forget that you can also shift the focus in an episode to another character. Yeah. And that was something that Daredevil did really well. And so I think she would pose more of a challenge for them, but I still don't see her not being at least mentioned.
Yeah. Geekly Goods asks, how do you all feel about the depiction of Kingpin in Hawkeye and Echo? I'm gonna throw this out there. I was not the biggest fan of his depiction in Hawkeye. I felt like he was not as severe as I wanted Kingpin to be. He was very MCU-ified. But I think in Echo, it was a step in the direction that I would want to see Kingpin go. He's a little bit more brutish, a little bit more scary, which is what Kingpin should be.
Yeah, I completely agree. I was not a big fan of him in Hawkeye, and I was very nervous. And I think that that's testament to the fact that like I didn't like either his appearance in Hawkeye or Daredevil's appearance in She-Hulk, but Echo kind of fixed both of those.
I will say I do hope that with the trajectory that his character is going in regards to his characterization, I hope that Daredevil Born Again takes him back to the Netflix level of Kingpin, because that rendition of Kingpin was nightmare fuel. Like that is something you do not want to mess with. And the Hawkeye Kingpin, he was very much like, he was like the teddy bear version of a mob boss.
Yeah.
Like I wasn't really worried about him.
I have to say, with his appearance in Hawkeye, it made me terrified of the prospect of bringing Frank Castle into the plot, because you can't make this fully a teddy bear unless Karen Page is around. This man is a killer. Like, he's emotionally damaged, and we love him for that. But I don't see a way that you can MCU-ify. So I'm glad that we now have a mature MCU that we can cast all of our hopes for the future.
I'm also just a little bit worried about, like, when it comes to Frank Castle specifically, I'm a little bit curious if Disney would even want to bring him in at all. Even if they do bring him in,
I mean, they plan to.
In Spotlight, sure, but I feel like with the how do I say this? The use of his logo by certain,
but that also hasn't stopped anybody from simping the imps in Star Wars. And
I mean,
we
you're
know
not wrong.
There are people with those tattoos that did some stuff on January the 6th. So, I mean, it hasn't stopped that.
Fair enough. All in the Game asks, can see Benson and Moorhead eventually directing an MCU movie after directing episodes of Daredevil, Loki, and Moon Knight? If they did, what would you want to see them direct? Do we get a Daredevil movie, or do we do like maybe a street level like team up movie directed by them?
Yeah, I could see that. I was going to say I would like to see them team up with Michael, who did Werewolf by Night, I think, introducing all of those. I don't know if I would want them directing so much as maybe writing, because I think they're good writers as well. So I don't know. Daredevil and the Teenage Mutant Ninja. Very good, Adam.
What if put them in the chair for Midnight Suns?
Yeah, I could see that. I could definitely see that. That would be a really good. And I just had a funny thought when like reading their names written out like that, Benson and Moorhead. No wonder they wanted Nelson and Murdoch. They get it. They get it.
That is all that we have time for today. That's all we're going to talk about today. Before we go though, Maggie, is there anything coming up for you that you want to talk about?
There is, and it's why I dressed very tropically on this very gray day. Because I am flying down to Orlando next week to moderate some panels at MegaCon alongside Arzu. Same team up from San Francisco. Very excited about that. And I have some very exciting panels that I am moderating next week, including two that feature former Collider Dailies guests. So you can go back and watch those interviews as you gear up to see what I ask them next week on those stages. But I will be interviewing Giancarlo Esposito of The Mandalorian. Very excited about that. I will be doing another Women in Sci-Fi panel. I had such a blast doing that at San Francisco, and this time it features Alex Kingston, Felicia Day, and Michelle Hurd. Very excited about that. And then, you know, this one really cracked me up considering I've been trying to grassroots the Rebel Moon fandom. I will be doing a panel for Sophia Boutella, star of Rebel Moon. Very excited about that. I will also be doing a panel with Paul Bettany. And then we have a really fun panel with Stephen Amell and Robbie Amell. And be sure to watch Collider next week, as we have some fun exclusives in the lead up to that panel, especially if you like Code 8. Always good to have some fun superhero stuff. And then we have a panel on Sunday with Matthew Lewis and Jason Isaacs, little Harry Potter team up there. And then I finish my weekend with moderating a panel for Neil Newbin. So Baldur's Gate 3 girlies, you will find me there. And so that's my moderation slate next week. I'm very excited about it.
I'm jealous that you get to talk to Neil again.
I know.
He was so much fun to interview that's gonna be a great time. Just listening to that man talk is always entertaining.
As soon as he got announced, I was like, I want to moderate it. Let me put my 400, 500 hours of gameplay to use again.
I just started another playthrough. I'm doing a modded playthrough for the first one.
I also just started a modded playthrough because I wanted to compare.
I'm playing a Death Knight because somebody added in Death Knights as a class. So I'm doing a playthrough with that. And it is broken. If you care at all about the difficulty of your game, do not play a Death Knight, because they just wipe the floor with everything. But anyways, that's it for us here. I hope you have a fantastic rest of your weekend. We will be back Monday, same bad time, same bad place. But until then, have a good one.